Let's try this again. Unmuted. I'm having fun tech problems today. Apparently, I just need more coffee. So, welcome back to the RanchCast, Rancheroos. All my tech seems to be working now, thankfully. And let's go at this again. Now, the nice thing is somehow YouTube's API started working. Again, Restream said, hey, your channel is still on hold, but it appears to be streaming. So we are live on Mixer and YouTube and Twitch. So this will probably be a quicker than normal RanchCast because I did a little research ahead of time and could not find information about the Vault KMS. So the things we're looking to start automating today. Well, let's talk about them. So as usual, let's do the things that we always do. Let's talk about if you want to join us today. You can go to slack.rancher.io, put in your email address, and you'll get an invite to the Slack workspace, the Rancher users workspace. And then once you're in there, you can join us in the RanchCast channel. I'll be monitoring this while we go. So if you have anything you'd like to talk about, let me know. And thank you again for joining me today, in spite of all the fun tech stuff. I spent like 20 minutes also working the audio because I've either been too low or too high. Hopefully this is much better. I did like 20 recordings just to adjust to make sure that my speaking voice picks up on the mic. So let's see where we were, shall we? Going back to last week, if you want to join us at any time, you can do so via the code github.com/me, Jason Van Breckel, /the RanchCast. One of these days, no, that's not the one that I want. That's where previous episodes are. This is Cattle Drive. So we're automating all the things, and Cattle Drive is the place we keep all the code where we're automating all the things. Now, last time we were here, I had some things I was working on. I don't think I checked in the notes there. No, I didn't check in the notes there. So let's bring up VS Code. New code window. And automating, oh, it's breaking the monolith. Where's Cattle Drive? Cattle Drive, there we are. Okay. Now onto the other screen. One, two. I can't grab the taskbar. It's like in a weird space. All right. There. Back to Cattle Drive. All right. So last week, let me move the variables off the page. Make sure that's closed. We're just going to close all. We're closing all. And we're starting back up because I don't want to reveal some secrets. And one of the ways we don't reveal secrets is we store them in essentially a key management store, KMS. So we're going to explore how to do that in Kubernetes today. We'll look at some docs. Then we'll decide on some techs. Since we're already in Azure, we'll see how much automation we can do in Azure through Terraform. So starting where we were last week, did I have some notes in here? I believe I took some notes. So everything that I had issues with as far as last week appears to be fixed. Maybe. And let's see, did I have notes? I might have gotten rid of the notes when I fixed all the things that I need to fix. Yep, I'm not seeing notes in here, which means I went and got and did it. So I checked to make sure that Terraform plan worked okay. And we'll do a Terraform apply while we're waiting. Actually, yeah, we'll have all this automation going while we're waiting. So I'm going to open up terminal, open a window where you can see it. Nope, not 4. That's what I want to button to. Close, close, and close. And automating all the things. No, Cattle Drive. Good. So we're back in here. And then I should be able to do, I'm going to do Terraform plan just to make sure I have all the variables I need. And it should say like 50 some objects it'll create through the modules. And if that works, I will run the automation and watch it blow up in the background while we're talking about KMS. Oh, that's right. We added the Cloudflare stuff in. Did I fix that? I did fix that. Well, sort of. There's no issue in the Cloudflare stuff. The Cloudflare stuff will do like mymanagementcluster.com, but not a rancher.mymanagementcluster.com. I'll fix it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It really is just a regex thing. Because I use a substring replace, and I'm just going to regex replace it so I can get both the substring and the other side of that. Good. Good. That all looks normal, and I own mymanagementcluster.com. That's one of mine for playing around with. So that all looks good. So I'm gonna go back a directory, or no. Forget. Oh, it's automate. So let's put it in this window. Good. So that is going to do the automation. We're going to let that thing get started. So we'll see if it fails or not. And then we'll start talking about KMS. So essentially with KMS, we're going to look to do two things. One, we want to encrypt Kubernetes secrets via the KMS, but we also want to use the KMS to store all of our variables that we're currently using for Terraform. That's the two things we want to do with it. I'll send you to a link that I think is really good on describing how this works in Kubernetes. It's about a year old, still an excellent resource, and we'll also look at the docs associated with this. Now, usually I'd pre-plan some of this stuff, but all the feedback I've gotten from you all who watch is, oh no. Oh, yes. Thought I had that automated. That's fine. No auto apply. We'll let that we'll let that run while we're going in the background while we talk KMS. So I've gotten lots of feedback from regular watchers, and they're like, hey, we like seeing your thought processes and where you get all this stuff. Have a true follow along. I made a big jump when I made this module system, and it threw a few of my regulars off. So I'm not going to do that type of thing anymore. So we're going to actually explore these together live. I'll do less prep ahead of time. Like I'll prep some links and things like that. Make sure that the things I want to do are actually possible. Actually, even that, I'm okay with things not being possible because then we learn that together. So let's go look at some KMS stuff. So we're going to target two KMS. We're going to target Azure's KMS, or Key Vault. And we're going to target Hashicorp Vault for anything that I'm going to do on my machine or on-prem. Now, Hashicorp makes really awesome stuff like Terraform that's running on my other monitor right now, doing the automation. This is another really awesome project/product from Hashicorp as far as sensitive data goes. It's a really simple key value store that does really strong encryption and also can integrate with hardware storage managers. So those are the important things, is that it can do all those things. So we're going to start with learn here. Good. And we'll get started. So it's been a while since I've touched Vault, and we're going to do some of this together. And then the Azure Key Vault, we're going to work with as well. So, and we can see here, this is the important thing, this FIPS 140-2. So it's essentially using the same level of encryption as HashiCorp's enterprise model. We're going to be using the open source model, but understand that you can tie this into a hardware storage, hardware security manager, and do all those things. But this is the important thing, is that we hit these levels here. So for those unfamiliar with FIPS, you can see here, FIPS 140-2 comes right up. So FIPS compliant, high levels of security and certifications. Let's find there we go, Wikipedia to the rescue. So FIPS is the Federal Information Processing Standard. So if you're going to do anything in the Fed space, and I've done some work in the Fed space, Rancher has people who are specific to the Fed space. I'm not on that team, but I've been in Fed before. So Fed has very specific documented standards on what works and what is allowed as far as cryptography goes. So we need to make sure that we have the right standard as far as the level goes for security, for security recommendations. So FIPS 140-2, really important. And there's a whole certification process if you want to be like FedRAMP certified. I went through a lot of that with the last company I was with, and exploring that, going through NIST documentation. NIST and FIPS tend to be close together. So we have, for example, NIST 853 here, and I believe NIST 853 is security and privacy controls. So when you get into Fed space and Gov space, these things become really, really important, and they can get pretty darn complicated, as you can see. Yeah. And that's just the first 33 pages of 462. So being a specialist in this sort of thing, it takes work. But don't let anybody ever tell you that it has to be all done by a human by hand. That's not what the docs say. And some of the consultants out there will lead you astray to have them on site to spend lots and lots of your money when a lot of this can be automated. The important part about the control is that it's auditable and that you separate concerns and things of that nature. So let's get started with Azure Key Vault. Now I'm learning this like you. Oh, the other thing I wanted to point out, there was a great talk at FOSDEM 2019 specific to Kubernetes by Seth Vargo over at Google. Seth is an awesome person, super smart, and did one of the better talks in this. I steal his word encryption quite a bit when we talk about Kubernetes secrets. So go watch this. This is a great talk. This will talk about what we're looking to accomplish. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here because there's no need to. He did a great job. All right. So we want to find out if Azure Key Vault, the provisioning of this can be automated via Terraform. And the thing is, I don't know. I didn't get a chance to check beforehand. So let's find out. So we're going to go out to our handy dandy Terraform docs, terraform.io/docs, Terraform documentation, and we're going to go to the providers. Again, providers are plugins. Just think of that way. And we're going to go to the Azure, nope, not Azure Stack. So differentiation for those who haven't been with us yet. Azure Stack is on-prem Azure, like super big, micro cloud sitting in your infrastructure. Azure Active Directory is the Active Directory for Azure, not to be confused with Exchange Active Directory. These are different things. Thank you for overbranding Microsoft. And then you have Azure itself, which is what we're interested in as far as automating Azure itself. So let's see what we have here. So we're looking at, this is where Google's site search can really come in handy. So we're going to do a Key Vault site. There we go. So, oops, I even did that wrong. So what I meant to do is this. So what I did was I did a search, but with a site modifier to only return things from the Terraform docs, and specifically the Terraform docs starting at Azure RM. Nice little Google hack there. So it is possible to find Key Vault Azure policies with the resource via access policy block using. Okay. We'll probably make that mistake, but nice to know. So example usage, we'll need a resource group. We'll need a Key Vault. And what else? We'll need an access policy. Okay. So it looks like we have permissions on get, network ACLs. So I am no expert in this, and we're going to learn this together. So let's see what we can do here. Name of the Key Vault. Good. So it can create the resource. That's what we want. SKU name of the SKU use, standard and premium. We're just going to do standard. And an ID that should be used for authenticating requests to the Key Vault. So that's interesting. So we'll actually have to have an active tenant for that, which is your subscription. Or no, this is an Active Directory tenant ID. So we'll grab the tenant ID for me and go from there. Access 16 objects, describing access policies as listed below. Enabled for deployment. Enabled for disk encryption. So yes, we wanted disk encryption. And all right. we're going to do some learning here. And it may be I do some learning offline if we run into a big blocker and then, get stuck. But let's just start with seeing if we can create a key manager. I'm going to use the same pattern I've been using for other modules. So looking at our cattle drive, everything is separated into modules that is reusable. So I've got a main, a variables, and usually an output like this one. So for example, for the resource group module, we need a group name, we need a region where it's going to exist. Once that gets created, it then actually does the creation of the objects in Terraform, and then there's usually some output that'll be used by other sections of the main Terraform code. So, the main Terraform, the root module, gets really, really busy because it's ingesting all these other things. We have our network modules, we have our K8s modules. So we're going to actually create our key value store here and go from there. Now, we still have this creating, and this takes minutes, which is fine. It's still doing all the RKE and Rancher stuff. The fact that it's still running is a good thing, because I haven't run it in months, and it's cool to see that it's at least still sort of working. Let's see. So let's go ahead and copy the simplest and dumbest of modules just for the resource group, and we're going to paste that in here, and I'm just going to rename it. And we're going to call it Azure AMS, or Key Vault mod. I cannot spell vault for the life of me. Every time. Every time. So it's going to need some inputs. So we're going to have to we'll probably grab the resource group here. Yes, we're going to need a resource group ID. And so we're going to need a resource group. What else are we going to need? We're probably going to, at some point, we're going to add stuff for ACLs and things of that nature. Let's take a look. I'm going to need a resource group. That might be all I need just to create one. Oh, and I'll need a tenant ID. Okay. All right, so let's also use a tenant ID. And description. What was the tenant for again? The tenant ID is the... we're just copying it right from the page. If I have to clarify it later, I will. All right. Tenant ID that should be used for authenticating requests to Key Vault. Okay, good. And I'm going to use my active tenant for that. I think that'll work just fine. I may even be pulling that in main already. Take a look. So let's look at some of our locals here. Subscription, group name, module locals. Nope. Subnet ID. Locals, bar node credentials, resource group. Oh, current. Yeah. So I bet I can grab it from here. So let's look at the Azure RM subscription data. So difference between the pieces down here and the data sources is these data sources are for reading things from an active session. So things I may not have created that may just already exist. So we're going to look at for Azure RM _ subscription. Service bus. Subscription. Okay. This is what we want. And bingo. Tenant ID. That's the one I wanted. So we're going to grab tenant ID out of the current subscription. That'll be what we use for the Key Vault. Whether that's best practice or not, we'll figure out as we learn. Wow. Stuff is still working. Oh, look at that. Still doing stuff. Flush DNS cache. I don't remember actually keeping it alive. That's probably not going to work either, but we'll see. All right. Let's get started. So we have our tenant, we have the things we'll need. We'll need our tenant ID and our resource group. So let's go in, and I don't know if we'll need outputs yet. So I'm just going to leave this blank. You know, like in books. I know, I'm trying to be funny. Total nerd dad joke. All right, so, and then we're going to use the Azure provider. Now, this just means we're using the active provider. Let's grab, go back and grab our key vault. Did I really use the same page for that? I bet I did. Key vault. All right, so let's go ahead and create a key vault. We'll use the example here. Access policy is where I'm a little worried. I don't understand that yet. It basically means I just got to read the docs. Back here. And let's go ahead and paste this. So we're going to do Azure Key Vault. We're going to call it Kubernetes Vault. Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to set up this vault to be used by Kubernetes to store secrets. And so we're going to need, name is its vault. And its location is going to be in the resource group location. We're not doing string interpolation anymore. What did I call it? Resource group. All right, so var resource group location and var resource group name. Now you'll notice that my linter is going off, and that's because the linter still thinks it's Terraform 11. I don't know if it's not gotten an update apparently. Yeah, I don't know why that's var resource. Yeah, unknown token. That should work. Var. Let me double check one of my other modules just for an example, because like I said, it's been a while. Yeah, var dash network, var resource. Yeah, that's exactly, and it's linting on the same thing. I wonder if, yeah, I know. I'm gonna have to figure out to see if the linter can do 11 and 12. And then the tenant, we're gonna want the var tenant ID. All right, that's good, right? Yes. Now, there's a dash in there. I use dashes for my variables as my own standard. Now, I don't know what that object ID is. Let's look at the docs, shall we? Access policy. Tenant ID, access policy. That doesn't help me. Oh, you can actually have a separate policy block too. Oh, interesting. Kind of like, I kind of like splitting it up based on a key vault and an access policy. Interesting. So while we're here, because I still have some things creating, so I can't run a Terraform plan yet on just this with no access policy. Actually, yeah, let's just print it without an access policy to start with. And then we'll figure out how access policies work as far as keys go. So I'm going to just go ahead, bypass. I'm going to remove everything but the create. Because that'll be thing one, is can we create one? And did I separate the resource group for, this is also thing I separate the resource group. Yeah, we'll solve that later. I haven't used it yet. I don't know what resource group I'm going to put it in yet. Let's look at some docs. So if you're looking to do KMS and Kubernetes, we'll need to go using a data. So the documentation that we want is using a KMS provider to encrypt Kubernetes. So for data encryption. So this is specific to encrypting secrets. So before we begin, we have a kube cluster that's still doing its thing. It's been beta as of so much beta in Kubernetes. It's okay. We're dealing with something that's still younger than my kindergartner. We're cool. Configuring KMS. So we need a KMS plugin. We need endpoint to listen to. Endpoint is a unit socket domain socket. The number of data encryption keys to be cached in the clear. When cached, DEX can be used without a call to the KMS, whereas DEX that are not cached require a call to KMS to unwrap. Let's not cache them. Sure, that has an effect on performance, but we can worry about it later. And we should also look at this understanding encrypting at rest. So here's the other. You know what? I'm going to put these links in the description because they're both important. The RanchCast. What is today's date? It is the 28th. So, links to put in the YouTube description. Encrypting secret data at rest. We'll give it a name. And we'll do the same thing for that other document that we're looking at now on the sake of a KMS provider. So I'm going to leave it up to you all to actually read these docs. I've read them in the past. It's been a little while. I will reread them, but there's no need for me to reread them live. I am going to skim it real quick to see if there's anything in here I want to touch while we're live. Hit rest. So this will take some kube API server calls, which means we'll have to adjust the RKE configuration accordingly to use a kube API config. And then prior to 113, okay, we don't need to worry about that because we are well beyond 113. We'll have to set up in our add-ons an encryption at rest configuration. So this example here is encryption at rest with keys that are manually input. So we're going to use a KMS provider here to do that. So the KMS acts as a plugin to essentially do this and support rotation. Now, one of the things I did find out looking at the Azure KMS plugin so the Azure Key Vault plugin for Kubernetes does not support key rotation scenarios. That's not okay. Well, at least from a production standpoint, it's not okay. From a learning standpoint, it's just fine. From a production standpoint, it is just not okay. So encrypting data at rest, and then the KMS. We are going to use a KMS provider for this. Now, the other thing that I found out when I was looking into this, and I still don't know the ends of this, is Oracle did a KMS provider for Vault. And I'm going to have to do some research here because the repository is archived, which means there's no active development on it, which means it might be a dead project and there might be an alternative, or Vault doesn't support it. Like, this is one of those things I just have to figure out. So, but this is essentially how it's going to work, which is why one of the reasons I still love this document, because it shows how this is going to behave. So, kubectl secret call goes in the API server, goes into the Vault plugin, does an encryption, gets the encrypted version out, and then encrypt it into etcd. That's essentially how this works. And this is how it works for Azure KMS, except Azure KMS is here. So we're going to add this to links. The Oracle KMS provider for Hashicorp Vault. And we'll have the Kubernetes KMS provider, Azure KMS provider for Azure Vault. All right. So these are all the things that we're going to be getting into over the next couple of weeks as we automate all this. Still waiting for, this is not, this is stuck. This is definitely stuck. Okay. So I'm not going to get deep into the weeds as to why that's stuck. I'm going to actually, I'm wondering if my cluster is, let's even see if my cluster's up. That will at least tell me if all my automation is working. Oh, I may also have a DNS issue here. That's what happens if I do a DNS lookup. No, that's the one I want. DNS lookup. Ooh, well, that's interesting. Okay. Whew. Default backend. Okay. So my cluster's partially up. That's fine. And I'm actually curious to see what's going on over here in my Cloudflare. Let's take a look. And DNS. Oh, that's actually correct. Why do I have 4 addresses for that? Okay, let's take a look in the Azure portal and see what was created. I've got some kind of error here. I'm just moving off screen because I don't know what's going to pop up in my Azure portal, and I don't want to, show off any secrets. So let's see. What did I call this thing? Oh, got to move the variables off screen, so you can't do those either. Nope, not those variables. My TF vars. My resource group is, I need the default resource group. What is my default resource group? My variables for that default resource group is cattle drive something or other. Okay. We can do that. All right. So let's take a look at cattle drive. All right, good. So I'm going to cattle drive Kate's network, cattle drive, cattle drive rancher, cattle drive Kate. So let's see what's over in cattle drive rancher. All right, so I have a full network and I have a load balancer. So what is here in the load balancer? Okay, 210. That's what I would expect. And I have my network, my public IP for the load balancer, which has, okay, 210. I wonder, I did something. So I wonder if I have, I bet I know what I did. I'm pretty sure that I had old DNS entries in here that I did not clean up. So let's just, let's do this. I don't know why yet. And let me look at, okay, if I do that now, it's going to take a minute. Oh, that was nice. That's nice, a bit that short time to live. Good. Something is wrong with my setup. I'm going to scroll up and see what's happened. So that flush DNS is broken. We'll figure that out. We have the install. That's the tiller install. Oh, it's stuck because I've got the flush DNS cache. Oh, but I have my resource groups. Let's see if I got my case one too. I'm gonna move this back over here, it's out of the way. And I should have a cattle drive rancher, and I should have a cattle drive for Kate's. Yeah, cattle drive Kate's. So did it create the nodes? Yeah, it has a full arcade. So, all right. Okay. So it looks like all the creations be done. This is all my install. So I'm going to stop here for the day. Yeah, so I'm going to stop here for the day. So what will happen in the off time is I'm going to go through and read about Azure Key Vault. We'll do some teaching on Azure Key Vault, and we'll actually set up Azure Key Vault as our encryption stuff next week, maybe even Thursday. I may just bump breaking the monolith for this stuff. I'll let you know on Twitter. So that's thing one. Thing two is I'll figure out what's going on with my Terraform that worked 2 months ago. I bet it's just something stupid. Yeah, it's probably something stupid. Something I did that has gone awry since my move to Windows. And we'll go from there. So, with that being said, thank you all for your time this morning, and I will see you in the next video.